Megan Harper had always been passionate about sustainability. As a single mother who worked full-time as a school teacher, she balanced her life with precision, always making time for her teenage daughter, Emily, and her mission to live more environmentally conscious. After years of saving up, Megan finally made the bold decision to install solar panels on her roof. To her, it wasn't just an investment in her home. It was a stand for a greener future, a statement about her values, and a way to lower her electric bill while also doing her part for the planet. The installation was quick and smooth, and within days, Megan was watching her energy consumption drop, proud of the change she had made. She explained to Emily how the solar panels worked, how they harnessed the sun's energy and turned it into electricity for their home. The whole thing felt like a small victory in a world where it often felt like bigger changes were out of reach. But then came the letter. It arrived on a Wednesday morning. Megan had just dropped Emily off at school and was sitting at her kitchen table with a cup of coffee when she opened the envelope. At first, she thought it was a standard HOA newsletter or a community update. However, as she read, her heart sank. The letter, written on official HOA stationery, was a formal warning. It claimed that the solar panels on Megan's roof violated the community's aesthetic guidelines, which the HOA had clearly outlined in the bylaws. The letter demanded that Megan either remove the panels or face hefty fines for noncompliance. She reread the letter, her confusion mounting. Aesthetic guidelines? Her solar panels were neat, modern, and unobtrusive. They were installed to blend with the roof's design. They were even placed at an angle that wasn't visible from the street, making sure they wouldn't stand out to anyone who didn't know they were there. Megan had done everything by the book, or so she thought. The HOA had approved her home's exterior when she moved in. Had she missed something? The letter threatened fines that would increase with each passing day that the panels stayed up. Megan could feel the blood rush to her face. The HOA had been known for being strict about trivial matters, but this felt personal. She had a sinking feeling in her stomach. They can't do this, she thought. Determined to not let the situation escalate, she decided to reach out to the HOA directly. She called their office, but it took several attempts before she got through to the president of the board, a man named Gregory Pierce. Megan had dealt with the HOA before, but this was the first time she had encountered anything like this. Mr. Pierce, I've just received a letter about my solar panels, she began, trying to keep her tone calm. I've followed all the guidelines, and I'm confused as to why I'm being asked to remove them. I'm happy to discuss this, but I don't think there's any reason for me to be penalized. There was a long pause on the other end before Pierce responded. Well, Mrs. Harper, you may think they're unobtrusive, but they don't fit with the overall look we've established in the neighborhood, he said with an air of finality. The community has certain standards, and those panels are a violation. We've had complaints from neighbors who feel the same way. Megan's frustration bubbled to the surface. But the panels are not visible from the street. They're environmentally friendly, they save money, and they're an asset to my home. You can't force me to take them down just because of aesthetic reasons. Pierce remained calm, but there was a subtle hint of arrogance in his voice. I'm afraid the rules are clear, and as long as you live in this neighborhood, you're bound by them. We've already spoken to your neighbors, and we have their support. Megan's pulse quickened. What neighbors? I haven't spoken to anyone about this. And just so we're clear, my property is not under the jurisdiction of the HOA. My house is outside your boundaries. You can't enforce these rules on me. There was silence. Megan waited for him to respond, but the line remained still. Finally, Pierce spoke, his tone colder now. That's something you'll have to prove in court. We are enforcing this regardless of your claims. You have until next week to remove them, or the fines will begin. Megan slammed the phone down, her mind racing. Outside their jurisdiction? How could they not know that? She had checked the boundaries when she moved in. Her home was on the outskirts of the community, well beyond the HOA's reach. But this felt different. This felt like they were intentionally overstepping their bounds. Something about this situation didn't sit right with her. Megan was no stranger to standing her ground. She was a teacher, after all. She had the patience and the persistence to fight for what was right. But this was different. The HOA had been relentless in their pursuit of control. If they were willing to go this far over solar panels, how far would they go next? That night, after Emily had gone to bed, Megan sat at her kitchen table with her laptop, researching the HOA's legal boundaries. She carefully went through the bylaws again, and sure enough, she found the clause that stated the HOA's jurisdiction. It was clear her property wasn't even under their control. Megan felt a surge of confidence as she discovered that the HOA had no legal authority over her property. The next morning, Megan went straight to the local real estate attorney, a woman named Sarah Greenfield, who had helped several neighbors with issues involving the HOA. After explaining the situation, Sarah didn't hesitate. They can't force you to take down those panels. In fact, if they continue, we can sue them for harassment and overstepping their boundaries. Let's take them to court. Megan felt a weight lift from her shoulders. For the first time in days, she felt like she had a chance to fight back. Over the next few weeks, Megan and Sarah gathered their evidence. Sarah drafted a letter to the HOA, demanding they cease their threats and acknowledge that Megan's property was outside their jurisdiction. They presented legal documentation showing that the HOA's authority ended well before Megan's house began. The case was solid. When the HOA board received the letter, they were furious. Gregory Pierce's reaction was predictable. He dismissed the claims and insisted that they would still proceed with the fines. But the legal team representing the HOA knew they were on shaky ground, and they were starting to realize that they had underestimated Megan's resolve. Megan's case soon went to court. She stood tall in front of the judge, confident in her knowledge and her position. The courtroom was tense as both sides presented their arguments, but Megan's lawyer was a master at pointing out the HOA's overreach and failure to follow their own rules. The judge deliberated for a long time, and when the ruling came down, it was a victory for Megan. The judge ruled that the HOA had indeed overstepped its boundaries and had no legal claim to her property. He ordered them to drop all fines and cease any further actions against Megan. The HOA's president, Gregory Pierce, had to personally apologize in front of the court for his harassment. Megan walked out of the courthouse that day with her head held high. She had not only won the right to keep her solar panels, but had also sent a clear message to the HOA. She wasn't going to let them take her home, her savings, or her values without a fight. That evening, as Megan and Emily sat on the porch of their home, watching the sunset, Megan smiled. The solar panels on the roof gleamed in the fading light, a symbol of her hard-fought victory and her commitment to a cleaner, greener future. And with the threat of the HOA now behind her, Megan knew she had not just fought for herself, but for everyone who lived outside the narrow confines of their rules.